The U.S. men's national team was eliminated from the 2026 World Cup at Seattle Stadium following a definitive 4-1 defeat to Belgium. In the post-match press conference, manager Mauricio Pochettino admitted that the United States did not approach the game in their usual manner. This was the rigid, synchronized defensive block that successfully carried the U.S. through the group stages and the round of 32. The personnel on the pitch had the talent to compete with the Belgians. This outcome was a systemic structural collapse. As this diagram shows, the American structure fractured in three distinct zones: the wide flanks, the space immediately behind the center backs, and the deep transitional midfield. A strategic gamble in knockout football rewrites the geometric vulnerabilities of the entire team. Belgium's tactical gambit relied on stretching the pitch. They utilized wingers to pull the U.S. backline horizontally, generating isolation scenarios on the edges. Highlighted wide left, Trossard draws the U.S. right back out to open a passing channel. He exploits this gap, slipping a pass to Nicolas Raskin in the exposed half space. Raskin then squares the ball across the box for Charles de Ketelaere to tap into the net. The U.S. managed a temporary reprieve when Malik Tillman equalized through a deflected free kick. Exactly 116 seconds passed between the U.S. equalizer and Belgium's second goal. The 33rd-minute goal was a geometric replica of the 9th-minute vulnerability, proving the U.S. failed to adjust their structural width. As Trossard prepared a second delivery from the left channel, the U.S. midfield failed to drop back and compress the space. This uncorrected zonal flaw left de Ketelaere isolated in the box, giving him the room for an uncontested free header. Failing to dynamically adjust defensive width against a team engineered for wide overloads turns a temporary tactical oversight into a fatal vulnerability. By the 57th minute, the breakdown shifted from horizontal exposure on the flanks to the vertical depth of the U.S. backline. Playing a high defensive line requires a sweeper-keeper to manage the territory left behind the center backs. This structure requires absolute spatial synchronization between goalkeeper Matt Freese and center back Tim Ream. Looking at this 2D pitch, the U.S. backline pushes toward the midfield stripe, generating a vacuum zone between the defenders and the penalty box. The trigger moment arrives when Freese races out of his penalty area to sweep a Belgian through ball inside this vacuum zone. Under direct pressure from de Ketelaere, Freese misses the interception, leaving the ball live. The spatial disconnect between the stranded keeper and the retreating center backs creates a gap where defensive recovery is impossible. Hans van Akkeda capitalized on the resulting empty net, firing a long-range effort from distance to make it 3-1. A sweeper-keeper error in a high-line defensive system ultimately represents the total collapse of a team's entire depth calculus. Entering the final 15 minutes and trailing 3-1, the U.S. adopted an aggressive offensive posture. This posture required compromising their rest defense, the structural shape a team maintains while attacking to prevent immediate counterattacks. The U.S. committed extra bodies forward into the Belgian third, vacating the defensive midfield zones shown here. The U.S. encountered heavy offensive friction, with Thibaut Courtois neutralizing their attempts to claw back into the match. Attackers like Faller and Balogun could not convert these numerical overloads into goals against the disciplined Belgian low block. These empty, unoccupied tracts of land separate the U.S. attackers from their lone remaining defenders in the defensive half. High transition teams like Belgium are engineered to hunt in these vacated spaces. In the 93rd minute, a Belgian clearance fell into this transition space. Romelu Lukaku aggressively pounces on the loose ball in this gap, leveraging his immense speed to completely isolate the disorganized remaining defenders. He applied a clinical finish to seal the 4-1 victory, securing his third consecutive World Cup goal. Abandoning rest defense is a necessary endgame gamble when trailing. Executing that gamble against an elite transition unit ensures a multi-goal deficit. The full 90 minutes reveal a single, interconnected spatial failure. This board maps the breakdown: the failure on the wide left flanks, the depth gap behind the center backs, and the transitional midfield void. None of these 4 goals resulted from bad luck. They were structural inevitabilities. These failure zones connect directly back to Pochettino's initial decision to alter the team's baseline strategy. By deviating from their identity, the U.S. provided Belgium with the exact geometric conditions required for their specific attacking profile to thrive. The disciplined American side that advanced through the earlier rounds was replaced by a strategic gamble that proved fatal. For advanced tacticians, the lesson is that structural identity remains a team's strongest shield in knockout football. Abandoning core tactical principles in high-stakes environments removes the safety net of muscle memory and spatial synchronization. The Seattle collapse is a case study in how a strategic deviation at the managerial level can dismantle a team's structural integrity on the pitch.